When you think about universities here in the U.S., you often picture someone lecturing up at the front. But how do they actually get there
Right?
and how they move up? It's definitely more involved than just showing up.
Absolutely.
So today in the deep dive, we're going to pull back the curtain a bit. We want to look at becoming and then advancing as a university lecturer.
Yeah, sort of an insider's look.
Exactly. We're drawing on some insights from Jared Kanize to help us understand this really crucial role in higher ed.
And we're tackling two big questions for you today, really. First, what's the actual journey like, becoming a lecturer in a U.S. university?
Mm-hmm.
And second, for those maybe already doing it or thinking about it, what does it genuinely take to get that promotion to become a senior lecturer?
Because professor is the title everyone knows, maybe. But lecturers, they do a huge amount of the teaching, don't they?
They really are the backbone, especially for the undergraduate teaching mission in many places.
Okay, so let's start with that first part, becoming a lecturer. Now, you mentioned professors. There's often confusion there, right? Lecturer versus professor.
There is, and it's a key difference. Generally speaking, professors are often on the tenure track or tenured.
Right, the research focus.
Exactly. Research is a major part of their role. Lecturers, on the other hand, and sometimes we'll hear instructor used almost interchangeably.
Hmm.
Their primary focus is usually teaching. That can be full-time, part-time, but the emphasis is on the classroom.
Got it. So thinking about the path, where does it start academically?
Well, it usually kicks off with a bachelor's degree, and it needs to be an irrelevant subject, obviously.
Like if you want to teach English, get an English degree.
Mm.
Biology for biology.
Precisely. Or, say, education if you're aiming to teach in an education department.
Yeah.
But that's just the start. Postgraduate study is almost always the next step.
So a master's degree, or do you need the PhD?
A master's is often seen as the sort of minimum requirement, especially for maybe part-time or introductory roles. But for full-time positions, and definitely for senior lecturer roles down the line, a PhD is, well, it's generally expected.
Now, during those postgraduate years, the master's or the PhD, I hear a lot about needing to do research, maybe even publish. Why is that important if the role is teaching focused?
That's a really good question. I mean, think about it from the university's perspective. Having research experience, even a publication or two,
Mm-hmm.
it signals that you're not just delivering content, but you're actually deeply engaged with your field. You understand how knowledge is made, how the academic conversation works.
So it makes you a more informed teacher in a way.
Exactly. It shows you're part of that scholarly community. It adds depth.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not just about the diploma.
Mm.
So beyond the degrees, what about practical experience? Things like being a teaching assistant.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Internships, TA roles, maybe research assistant positions, that hands-on experience is invaluable.
Why is that?
It gives you a real taste of, the day-to-day. You start figuring out your teaching style, learning how to manage a classroom, interacting with students, building a record that's more than just grades.
Right, real-world application. So,
Yeah.
okay, you've done the study, maybe getting TA experience. Now you're applying for a lecture job.
Yeah.
What does that actually involve? It's not just firing off a CV, I assume.
No, definitely not. You need a really tailored cover letter. You have to show why you fit that specific job.
So,
Your CV or curriculum vitae needs to be meticulous. List your degrees, yes, but also any publications, presentations, teaching you've done, any grants.
wow.
And often a personal statement is required. That's where you talk about your teaching philosophy.
Your philosophy, like how you think students learn best.
Exactly. Your approach to teaching and references, of course. People who can vouch for you.
And I've heard sometimes they even ask for a sample lecture.
Yes, that can happen.
Yeah.
Especially for finalist candidates. They want to see you in action, see your teaching style.
Okay, that sounds pretty intense. So beyond the paperwork and the demo, what kind of personal skills make someone good at this?
Well, it's an interesting mix, isn't it? You absolutely need strong communication skills.
Right, explaining things
And
clearly.
taking complex ideas and making them accessible, yeah. But also patience, empathy. You're dealing with all sorts of learners.
Mm-hmm.
A real passion for your subject helps a lot. It's contagious. And honestly, being super organized, time management is huge.
Juggling classes, prep, grading.
Exactly. And being able to collaborate with colleagues in your department, it's not a solo gig.
Sounds like you need to be a bit of everything. So if someone's just starting, maybe finishing their PhD, what's the typical career path look like? Is it linear?
It often starts as maybe an entry-level lecturer, sometimes called an instructor.
Hmm.
As you build experience, maybe finish that PhD if you haven't already, you'd move into a standard lecturer role.
Okay.
Then, for those on the teaching track, the next big step is aiming for senior lecturer.
And beyond that,
Sometimes there are further ranks, like principal lecturer or teaching professor, but it really varies by institution. The titles aren't uniform everywhere.
good to know.
Yeah.
So let's talk pros and cons. Why would someone choose this? What are the upsides?
Well, for many, it's the intellectual stimulation. You get to stay deep in your subject.
Yeah.
And the job satisfaction, seeing students have those aha moments, that's powerful.
I can imagine.
There can be some flexibility in the academic schedule sometimes, making a real difference in people's lives. And yes, opportunities for conferences, maybe travel.
Okay, sounds appealing. What about the downsides? The hurdles?
Academia is competitive. Getting those positions can be tough.
Right.
The workload can be really intense, especially during certain times of the year, like midterms or finals.
Grading.
Oh, the grading. And, sometimes the pay, considering the amount of education required, it might not always feel commensurate with the effort.
That's a fair point. A balanced view.
Yeah.
How's the job market looking overall for these roles in the U.S.?
Generally, the projections are reasonably positive. The Bureau of Labor Statistics suggests some growth in post-secondary teaching jobs.
Okay.
Salary-wise, the average in the U.S. floats around, say, $67,000 USD, but that's a big average.
Depends on where you are, the type of university.
Exactly. Location, institution type, field. It all makes a difference. And it varies internationally, too. Australia, Singapore, often higher. UK, sometimes a bit lower.
Interesting comparison. Okay, before we get into the promotion side, let's hit some quick FAQs. People often ask, can you even become a lecturer without a PhD?
Yeah, that comes up a lot. And the answer is sometimes, maybe, especially for part-time roles or community colleges or very specific applied fields.
But for a full-time university gig?
For most full-time university roles, especially aiming for advancement, the PhD is, well, it's pretty much the standard expectation.
Okay. And what should you study? Seems obvious, but...
Study the thing you want to teach. Get your master's and usually your PhD in that specific subject.
Makes sense. Unless maybe you're teaching teachers.
Right, then a Master of Education in MEd could be very relevant alongside your subject expertise.
Got it. And just to hammer it home one more time, lecturer versus professor.
Primary focus, lecturers, mainly teaching, professors, often a mix of teaching and significant research, plus usually tenure eligibility.
Okay. And how long does this whole journey take, roughly? Education plus experience.
You're typically looking at maybe 7 to 10 years total, bachelor's, master's, often PhD, plus maybe some TA work or initial teaching experience mixed in.
It's a commitment. And finally, is there a single best degree?
Not really best. It's about the right degree for your field. An MA or MSc in your subject is the core, often leading to that PhD if you're aiming for the full university career path.
Perfect. That gives a really solid grounding in how you get in the door.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about moving up. Getting promoted from lecturer to senior lecturer, it's not automatic, right? Just waiting isn't enough.
No, absolutely not automatic. For folks in these non-tenure track teaching-focused roles, getting to senior lecturer is a significant achievement. And you have to actively build a case for it. It requires effort, documentation, proof, essentially.
Proof of what, primarily?
Primarily, proof of sustained excellence in teaching, but also contributions through service to the university and sometimes professional development or teaching-related scholarship.
Okay, so where do you even start if you're thinking about promotion?
First step, absolutely critical. Get your hands on your institution's rulebook.
The faculty handbook.
Exactly, or whatever they call their promotion guidelines. You need to find the section for non-tenure track faculty or instructional faculty, teaching faculty. The terminology varies.
And look for
The specific criteria, what do they require? Usually mention years of service, often 5 to 7 years minimum as a lecturer.
Right.
But crucially, it'll detail the evidence they want for excellent teaching, for curriculum contributions, for service. You need to know exactly what they're measuring.
Right, understand the target. So let's talk about that core piece.
Yeah.
Building the record of teaching excellence. What kind of evidence works? Is it just good student reviews?
Student evaluations are definitely part of it. Both the numbers, the quantitative scores.
Like the rate your instructor 1 to 5?
Yeah, those. But also the qualitative comments, what students actually write. You want to show a positive trend over several years across different courses.
Okay, not just one fluke semester.
Right, but it's more than just student voices. Peer observations are important.
Having colleagues watch you teach.
Yes, formal evaluations by other faculty. Also, your course materials themselves, syllabi, assignments, examples of innovative things you've done in class.
Showing development.
Exactly. And if you have data showing student learning gains like pre-post tests, portfolio improvements, that's really strong evidence.
So it's about collecting diverse proof over time.
Mhm.
How do you actively improve teaching in ways that committees recognize?
Well, engaging with evidence-based practices is key. Things like active learning strategies, not just lecturing.
Getting students involved.
Maybe trying a flipped classroom approach. Using technology thoughtfully, not just for flash, but to genuinely support learning.
Like using the LMS effectively or multimedia.
Yes. Developing new courses or significantly overhauling existing ones shows initiative. And, increasingly important, demonstrating how you support diverse learners, maybe using principles of universal design for learning.
Okay, so you're doing all this great stuff, collecting evidence.
Yeah.
How do you present it? That's the teaching portfolio, right?
That's the container, yeah. The promotion dossier or portfolio, it's your argument.
What goes in it? The essentials.
You'll typically have a cover letter or promotion statement, your summary pitch,
Okay.
your teaching philosophy statement, that 1-2-page explanation of your approach. Then the core evidence, summaries of student evals, maybe selected quotes, peer observation reports.
The proof.
The proof. Also, a section detailing curriculum development or pedagogical innovations. What new things have you tried or built?
Right.
And evidence of your professional development related to teaching workshops attended, conferences, certifications.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Optional extras.
Optional, but helpful. Any teaching awards you've won, grants related to teaching projects, maybe fellowships, they add weight.
It sounds very teaching-centric, which makes
Yeah.
sense. But you mentioned service, too. How important is that for a teaching-focused role?
It's definitely important. Universities expect faculty, even those focused on teaching, to be good citizens of the academic community.
What does that look like in practice?
It can be serving on department committees, curriculum committee, maybe hiring committees, assessment,
Okay.
participating in university-level governance, like the faculty senate or task forces. Student advising or mentoring is huge. Mentoring newer faculty, organizing events.
That's lots of possibilities.
Yes, the key is to document it all. Keep records of your service contributions, big and small. They add up.
Good tip. Now, what about scholarship, research, publications? Is that expected for promotion to senior lecturer?
It depends a lot on the institution and the specific expectations for that role. It might not be a strict requirement everywhere like it is for tenure track promotion.
But it helps.
It can definitely strengthen the case, especially if it's related to teaching and learning.
Like what?
Presentations or publications on pedagogy in your field, developing innovative curriculum materials that maybe get shared, doing research on teaching the scholarship of teaching and learning, or SOTL.
Investigating your own teaching.
Basically, yes. Or getting grants for teaching initiatives. Even just active membership in relevant professional organizations shows engagement.
So it's about demonstrating ongoing professional growth, even if it's focused on the teaching side. Navigating all this, getting mentors, seems wise.
Oh, incredibly important. Promotion isn't just about checking boxes. Relationships and visibility matter.
So what should people do?
Seek out senior colleagues, people you respect, and ask them to look at your materials, give you feedback. Talk to your department chair regularly about your progress.
Get on their radar.
Yes. And get involved beyond your department. University committees, campus events. Build your network. Attending and presenting at teaching conferences also raises your profile.
Makes sense. Being known for your contributions. Okay, let's talk timing and process. When do people typically go up for senior lecturer and what happens?
Eligibility, as we said, is often around that 5 to 7 year mark as a lecturer, sometimes earlier for really exceptional cases.
Okay.
You usually need to submit your application, that portfolio, about a year before the promotion would take effect.
A long lead time.
It is, because the review process is multi-layered. It typically goes from a department committee to the chair, then the dean, possibly a university-wide committee or the provost's office.
Wow.
There's usually internal peer review of the teaching materials, and they'll likely solicit letters of support from colleagues. Then eventually you get the official decision letter.
Sounds thorough. Any final tips for success for someone aiming for that promotion?
Yes, definitely. First, Keep records continuously. Don't wait until the year before. Document everything as you go, teaching innovations, service, workshops.
Good habit.
Second, tailor your materials specifically to your institution's criteria. Use their language. Address what they value.
Don't be generic.
No. Third, be specific and quantify your impact whenever you can. Don't just say you improved a course. Explain how and what the results were for students, if possible.
Show the impact.
Exactly. And finally, be proactive. Understand the timeline. Talk to your chair. Express your interest in going up for promotion when you feel ready and meet the criteria. Don't wait to be asked.
That's really practical, excellent advice. So wrapping this all up, our deep dive today really highlights that becoming a lecturer and then advancing in the U.S. system. It's a serious journey.
It really is. It's built on solid academics, but also a real dedication to teaching, to getting better at it, and being an active part of the university community.
It takes time, effort, commitment.
No doubt. But, for people truly passionate about education, about guiding students, it can be incredibly rewarding.
A really fulfilling path, potentially.
Definitely.
So a final thought for everyone listening. Maybe consider how your own skills, your interests, your experiences might align with this kind of role. Where could you contribute to shaping that next generation of learners?
It's a great question to ponder.
And hey, if you are actively looking for lecturer positions in the United States right now, a great place to check out the listings is academicjobs.com.
Good resource.
Definitely where to look.